Just like Oklahoma, Minnesota, the fourth longest win streak in the nation. 9 in a row dating back to last year. 9 in a row for the first time since 1941-42. And you see 10 unbeatens are left right now. Will it be down to 9 over on ABC? Will it be down to 8 after this game? The unbeaten Gophers running into a Maryland team that's done well against them the last couple of years. Jason Benetti, Rod Gilmore, Quint Kesnick in a moment. Look, if you said Minnesota was leading the Big Ten West at the start of this season, people would have said you're nuts.
No, only the people in Minnesota believed it, because the rest of the country was talking about Nebraska. But hey, take a look now. This team is solid, and they are now, with Wisconsin losing today, they have a chance to be 2 games up in the Big Ten West. Now, this is a good move for Iowa. They're now back in the hunt. West wide open.
Absolutely, and Minnesota trying to put a stranglehold on that. So if you haven't seen the Gophers, you say, how do they do it? The answer is hold the ball, run the ball.
Yeah, a little ball control, you know, good old-fashioned football. And it starts with Rodney Smith, who is the most underrated running back in the country. In the Big Ten, we talk about Taylor, we talk about Dobbs, but Smith is the 3rd rated running back in the Big Ten. He's had 4 straight games of over 100 yards, averaging 112 a game. He knows when to press it. He knows when to be patient. He'll be fun to watch today.
Question is, though, will the Gophers have trouble with Maryland one more time? And a deeper question is, who's going to start at quarterback for Maryland and Mike Locksley? Quint has the answer for you right after this timeout. Welcome back to the Big Ten on ESPN. The lovely Twin Cities today. The site as Maryland and Minnesota get together. Maryland won the toss and chose to take the ball. And the question is, who's going to be quarterbacking them, Quint Kesnick?
That answer is Tyrell Pigram for the 3rd straight week. He will start in place of Josh Jackson. Jackson out with an ankle injury. I was at practice on Wednesday, and both quarterbacks shared the reps. And the thought at that stage was that Jackson would be the likely starter. But Pigram played really well on Wednesday and Thursday, and once again he starts. Now what he offers Mike Locksley is the ability to run the quarterback and to improv when the pocket breaks down, to scramble. Good deep thrower, intermediate game needs work. Meanwhile, Jackson will see action in this game, likely in the 1st quarter. His intermediate and short-range accuracy is what Maryland will rely on. Jason.
Well, Q, don't forget, as we see Mike Locksley there, he's got a team now that has beaten Minnesota the last 2 years, beaten them soundly, and run the ball really well. So they're confident. P.J. Fleck is very much aware of that, and his team is not taking Maryland lightly at all.
Not at all. The Maryland team has been watching over and over again in their facility the game from last year, and P.J. Fleck certainly remembers it as well. As Maryland will have it first, and Javon Leak will take it to the 25-yard line. So Tyrell Pigram, junior quarterback who started at least 1 game in all 4 seasons he's been with the Terrapins. He has been the substitute quarterback. But again, as Quint said, we will see Josh Jackson as well. It's going to be interesting to see who's behind Pigram, because Anthony McFarland's coming back from an ankle sprain as well in the backfield.
And you know, Pigram says everybody calls him Tiggy, so we're allowed to as well.
That gives us the freedom to do so. Yeah. There's Javon Leak, the tailback. We will see Leak and McFarland both in this game as they rested McFarland. Blitz coming from the corner, and the pass complete across the 30 to Dante Demas, who Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator for Minnesota, said he can wreck your game.
Yeah, but this is a big play offense. There's no question about that. They are a team that believes in striking fast and striking deep, but not a hold the ball for 12 plays.
When Maryland has won this year, they put up big points, and this one is intercepted. Picked off by Winfield, his 5th pick of the year to lead the nation, and he goes down at the 20-yard line. That's his 3rd in the last 2 weeks.
I'll tell you, Antoine Winfield is playing at an all-American level. Whether he is deep or in the box, he's playing great. This is his 5th pick of the season, and he's got a lot more games left. Had 2 picks last week, a pick 6, and normally they're not afraid to put him around the box and let him stop the run. But look at this. Alert, ready for the tip drill, and here comes the Minnesota offense.
This is a guy that had 2 picks in his career. Before this year, he's got 5 in now 8 games for the Gophers, and Rodney Smith, the tailback, gets the first carry. He has a gash, and this is what Minnesota likes to do. Rodney Smith, the 4th all-time leading rusher in Minnesota history.
Yeah, they will attack the perimeter. Maryland had trouble last week defending the perimeter.
Long time on the mesh, and it is a first down, 1st and goal for Minnesota.
You know, Jason, as we work through the tape of last week's game with Indiana, Maryland really struggled with any kind of a zone read to the edge or any kind of an edge run, and that's something that they focused on this week because they knew Minnesota would bring it. First 2 plays at the perimeter.
That's a Maryland defense. It's not really built for that. They'll bunch you up in the middle and sometimes vulnerable to the outside. A 3rd straight carry. Smith, very patient, is out of bounds after a very short game.
This Minnesota offensive line, top 5 in college football in terms of height and weight. They're absolutely mammoth and gigantic. Meanwhile, Maryland's giving away 40 and 50 pounds each matchup. Their D-line is not stout. They're going to have to use movement, confusion, and extra numbers in the box to stop Minnesota's run game.
Yeah, Q, just stand next to Falele, and you'll realize how big a man he is at right tackle, number 78.
You're not calling Quint short, are you?
Everyone is short next to him. Everyone is small next to him.
Media timeout.
No score. Minnesota rapping on the door on its opening drive.
Hanging out at home probably like the rest of you.
But I've learned a lot about wood floors.
Tonight we got batting cage challenge.
As you can see, the Monopoly board is set up with a lot of hotels.
I'm gonna make the pancakes. Grace is gonna make the eggs.
You two are going to love the cupcakes.
Just gonna check on the homeschool crew and make sure everything's going okay here.
Stay strong, parents. We're gonna get this done.
All we can control is right now and trying to maximize our days the best we can.
I'm just so grateful for family, for friends, for loved ones, and the Big Ten.
Be a coach. Be a teammate.
Be a friend.
Be a teacher.
Be a family.
We are a team.
We are a team.
We are a family.
We got this.
We got this.
We can do this.
We can do this.
Matt Berry with the studio update. It's gone final in Manhattan, as seen on ABC. Oklahoma needed the onside kick. It was originally ruled that it was recovered by the Sooners. However, they reviewed it. It was ruled illegal touching. Kansas State gets the ball. They bang a knee and get their first win over a top 5 team since 2006.
Big upsets each of the last 3 weeks, and that is the one so far this week. Here for Minnesota, it is a 2nd down and goal off the Maryland timeout.
Yeah, Maryland's showing pressure off the edge.
Tanner Morgan, fade, end zone, touchdown, Bateman. Rashad Bateman with his 6th score.
Well, Minnesota expected man coverage down here inside the 10-yard line. Morgan picked up on it with the pressure showing from the edge, and a great ball.
kid that was originally committed to Georgia Southern, Rashad Bateman. They saw him at a camp. 20 seconds convinced them, and Bateman gets the win here.
Yeah, he's down here. Single coverage. Watch the route he runs. He gives Morgan plenty of room to put the ball up, to get him to the sideline. Defensive back, very passive. Bateman just owned him there. A little push off there. Didn't extend the arms. No pass interference.
He had a couple targets where he could have thrown that ball based on the route, right?
Yeah. He gave him a lot of room to decide, Q.
Talented sophomore. Makes big catches this year. 27 of his 29 grabs this season for first downs or touchdowns. So strong, only a sophomore. Tifton, Georgia, kind of off the beaten path. This staff found him and then kept him through some late offers from Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas A&M.
Q, how many guys choose Minnesota over Georgia?
He wanted to play right away, and he liked P.J. Fleck and the messaging.
Well, there you go.
He just killed his yards per catch, though. He's at 21.5 coming into the game.
I think he'll take the 6 points.
I think you're right.
Up that.
I think you're on to something, Gilmore. Javon Leak. He's taken a couple to the house in his career, down to the 34. Minnesota trying to avoid being one of these teams. Speaking of Georgia, they lost a couple of weeks ago at home. The other two were on the road. 10 unbeatens goes down to 9. You never know.
There will be more. We are not done. We haven't hit November yet. We're not going to finish the season with 9 unbeaten teams.
You don't think so?
Nah, I don't recall that happening.
The numbers suggest that you're right.
Yeah, well, every now and then.
Pigram's going to stay in. We were told we'll see Jackson early in the game as well. Pigram throws a pick, and now they'll turn to the run game for Leak. Imperative that Maryland keep it close so they can run the ball, because the last 2 years, 577 on the ground in this game.
Yeah, but they're not really a control team. They're a big play team. They have a speed advantage, and so they want to get people in space and take advantage of that.
Now McFarland back in. You saw Leak come out. McFarland, who's been dealing with an ankle sprain. Sophomore tailback. Coughlin coming, didn't get him. And this pitch out is caught. McFarland out of the backfield as a Maryland first down.
So this is the thing about the Maryland offense. They give you big plays. They are second in the Big Ten in plays over 20 yards and 30 yards. They are first in plays over 40 yards with 40. So Minnesota's whole game plan is don't give up a play, a big play. Don't give up anything over 25 yards.
That one goes for 11, just short of midfield. And McFarland gets the hole across midfield. McFarland and Leak are roommates. They live together, so Leak is happy to have his guy back on the field, and we may see them together on the field at points this afternoon.
Yeah, they've done that a couple times this season, and when they've done it, it usually has signaled an opportunity to throw to one of them out of the backfield, normally McFarland.
Yeah, that's McFarland down in the slot. Leak is in the backfield, so there they are together. That's the orbit motion for McFarland, and Leak is tripped up across midfield by Winfield.
Well, we talked about him. Yeah, I mean, he really is playing at an all-American level. Put him back deep, he gets 5 picks. Now, he's in a quarters coverage. He's got a run gap. He comes up, and he makes that play. You see him, he's deep, but he's playing with a run responsibility. He reads his guard. He comes flying up, plays in the box, plays deep. Making Dad proud, huh?
Yeah, he was a homing missile right there. I mean, Dad played more than a decade in the NFL as a DB. Pigram is drilled and sacked.
Graceland Oliver, who is one of the guys that comes in third down, part of the tag team that replaces Martin, makes the play here. He's right here, and he's waiting for the snap. He sees it, waits for it to open up. You see they bring a couple of guys, and the linemen have to pick and choose. Can't get everyone. Oliver is free for the tackle.
Playing without Kamal Martin, linebacker who was injured last week, and they have struggled a little bit without him on the field, but not today. The defense has provided the setup for the touchdown and then created the punt here. Oliver into Pigram for the sack. here. Antoine Winfield Jr., okay, interceptions, yeah, but run stopping as well. He has shown very strongly so far in the first 5 minutes in this game.
He's got a great ability to diagnose plays quickly when he's 10, 12 yards deep, and he recognizes run. He gets in there in a real hurry.
So Minnesota back to the offense, and Shannon Brooks is in at tailback. The Minnesota staff told us they wanted to spread the carries around today. And they will go to Brooks, who squeezes through that big offensive line on the right side. Tanner Morgan, redshirt sophomore out of Ryle High School by way of Hazard High School in Kentucky. And here's a kid, 6'2", 215, who was always told that he was too short to play quarterback. We've heard that before. Drew Brees comes to mind, and not surprisingly, Drew Brees is an idol of Tanner Morgan's.
I think we ought to be done with the too short quarterback stuff now with Russ Wilson and Kyler Murray and all those guys. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. I mean, it's a little lazy scouting wise, don't you think?
I do.
Another run play, and nicely done by Brooks.
Yeah, a little zone read, and again, Maryland struggled with that, so Minnesota has decided to test them with it early in this game. And a nice little play by Jones there, who makes the tackle.
Well, look, the one way Maryland won't gash you with big plays is if they don't have the ball, and Minnesota is 13th in the nation in time of possession. PJ Fleck learning from Jim Tressel how to do that sort of thing.
About 34 minutes a game. He likes to hang on to the ball and make you feel like you're being suffocated like a boa constrictor, he said.
Yeah, those were his words. Very aggressive. Morgan off the spin, turns it back upfield, and this ball is incomplete. Tyler Johnson tried to cup it down to the ground and couldn't do it.
Good effort, but when your hands aren't underneath the ball, and that seemed like it bounced anyway, but hands not underneath the ball, that'll be called incomplete. But you know, the great thing I love about Morgan is his whole story about coming to Minnesota, that PJ Fleck had recruited him to Western Michigan and then got the job here and called him up and said, why don't you come with me? And he hadn't seen the place.
Yeah, sight unseen, he shows up. He got in the car, just traveled a little bit further west as a flag is in. And Morgan runs for what would be very close to a first down, but we'll check the marker all the way back at the 25.
And the really cool thing was that he was about to have a graduation party.
Holding. Offense. Number 77. 10-yard penalty. Second down.
All decorated with Western Michigan stuff, including Western Michigan cookies with a big W on it. He told his mom, I'm going to Minnesota.
We got a problem here.
No, just turn the cookies upside down.
So that's what they did. They took the cookies, which had the W on them, and they said, nope, they're Minnesota
cookies.
Going
to Minnesota now.
You know, it's funny. He said, you know, you have all these people who love you dearly at the party. He said, I had so many of the same conversation. Like, hey, good luck in Kalamazoo. You know, here's the deal. It's not happening that way anymore. Morgan moving Mohamed Ibrahim, the tailback. One of three tailbacks, at least we'll see. This out into the flat. Bateman, who had the touchdown, gets the penalty yardage back, and it's third down.
The difficult thing about the Minnesota offense, they've got this huge offensive line, so they know how to pound you and lean on you. But they have three receivers who keep you on your toes. You talk about Tyler Johnson and Ottman Bell, and then that guy, Bateman. Bateman he's going to set some records before he's done here. He's really elite, and he's from Georgia. That's going to help recruiting a little bit, you think?
Yeah, that pipeline starts once you get a kid from a certain area. You got a shot at people who know him and people who look up to him. Unbeaten Minnesota on a third down. Morgan has a completion, and this goes for a first down to Ottman Bell. Chance Campbell had a chance to stop him. He couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's a 3rd and 5 where Morgan is patient. They've converted 38% of those, 13th in the FBS. And the third receiver, the offensive coordinator, Kirk Sherrock, told us, hey, it's not all that difficult. You want to get your playmakers involved early, and he's gotten each of his receivers a target so far.
Morgan again, down the middle. Ottman Bell one more time. First down. Matt Berry in the studio. What you got?
Guys, the Big 12 race got interesting with Oklahoma's upset against Kansas State. So now Oklahoma State on the road taking on a ranked Iowa State team. This Tylan Wallace, 71 yards. Watch the effort at the close. Polk score first, 7-0.
Chuba Hubbard, Stillwater. You heard Pat McAfee's rationale for picking the Cowboys earlier on game day. He said he'd never pick against that mullet because he's an American.
A mullet because
good logic.
Never mind.
From Pat.
Whatever.
The stand-in for Adam Vinatieri in lovely Brookings, South Dakota.
What about the guys with bald heads?
You speak for the group.
Well, actually, Morgan speaks for the group.
That's
speaks
true.
For his family.
Tanner Morgan. Rodney Smith to the 41. So here's the thing about PJ Fleck. We talked about the time of possession. 33 minutes a game. And Kirk Ciarrocca, the offensive coordinator, said, I like to joke with PJ. I like to say, hey, you may set a record for earliest milking of the clock. Minnesota is starting down that road already for earliest milking of the clock. This has been a long drive to 4.5 at this point.
Yeah, that's what they do.
It's the 8th play of the drive coming up as we move down to 5.5 in the first. Morgan tipped ball and nearly intercepted. Chance Campbell affected that.
They throw a lot of those slants off of their run-pass option. You see Morgan ride the back trying to decide what's that overhang defender going to do. Is he going to play run? If he does, I just try and throw the slant in, behind it. So we've seen that a couple times already.
Yeah, RPO slants. Later on, you'll see some double moves that are based on the slant and go.
Third down for Morgan. Walls collapse in the pocket. He finds an exit door, and he finds a first down. Oh, he took a hit for it at the 30-yard line from Brett Kolka, but it is first down, Minnesota.
Well, he had great protection initially. Short drop, so he doesn't want to stay in there. He knew the ball had to come out fast, so he got out of there when he didn't find anyone right away, but he needs to slide. His offensive coordinator, Ciarrocca, is very reluctant to run him a lot, given the way quarterbacks are going down this year.
He said to us yesterday in our meeting, I hope he slides.
Yeah, he just didn't. Just to finish the point on the bald man.
That was very close. Oh, to a lot of people's hearts. Here's Ibrahim inside the 20-yard line and a first down.
They keep picking at that edge, that outside. We talked about it at the start of this game, that Maryland has had trouble defending the edge, and Minnesota keeps going after. But Morgan, he says in his family, almost every male is prematurely bald. Happens at an early age, and he's one of those guys.
Well, he's got the chrome helmet on to cover it up right now. It's a beautiful look.
It is. It's a great look.
A little metaphorical.
Bald is beautiful.
It's a throw on first down. Morgan to the far side has yet another completion. He is one of the most accurate passers in the country. This is Demetrius Douglas.
We had him a few weeks ago against Purdue, and he was almost perfect in that game. Started out without throwing an incompletion. I think at some point he was 15 of 16 in that game.
Finished 21 of 22.
And Maryland's pass rush has been a major issue for them this season. If he's able to sit there, scan the defense, set his feet, and let it rip, look out.
Especially later in the game when fatigue starts to set in. Ibrahim for a couple yards. 3rd and 1 coming up as the first quarter gets frittered away. But Minnesota, we mentioned, a 9-game win streak. First time in 70-plus years since that national title team back in 1941 when they went 8-0.
Yeah, I would imagine here you'll see Maryland bring a safety down to try to stop the run here. The last play, they kept 2 safeties back to give a little help to their corners.
And Minnesota's gone big in terms of tight ends, and looks like they're going to take a timeout.
Yeah, one of those guys.
Confusion on their substitution.
Yeah, Q, one of those guys on the back end is going to have to come on down into the box.
Minnesota, their second and a half.
Second timeout for Minnesota. The Gophers have a 5 first down drive, and they're near the goal line. NFL Primetime, Boomer and TJ tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN+. Highlights, breakdowns, SVP, Joe Tess, all of it on ESPN+. Download the app or go to ESPN+.com. It's a third down for Testudo's defense, and Seth Green is checked in. He's the Wildcat quarterback for Minnesota. We figured we'd see him in a package at points, and it is Green who's checked in, with Ibrahim next to him. And there he is, straight ahead, Green, touchdown! Drive started at the 16 in Minnesota territory and ends here.
Watch the way that left side of the offensive line washes everyone out of the picture. Are you kidding me? We talk about the size of that line. Look at this. They wash everyone away. You don't even need a lead blocker. They completely washed the entire defensive line out of the picture. Wow.
Great work by the tight ends as well, as Minnesota hits for 6 plays on the drive of 10+, so systematic and explosive, as Lance is on for the extra point. And this is as good of a start as you could want if you're a Minnesota fan trying to avoid the upset bug. And this season, for every field goal and extra point made by participating universities, Allstate will make a contribution to the university's general scholarship fund. Thank you, Allstate.
As good a start as Minnesota could have hoped for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're 7-0. People have said every week, well, maybe this is the trap week. Maybe this is the week that they get beat.
And don't forget, people have been looking ahead to next week. All the chatter around town, Penn State next week. Can we get game day here? All of that. And so PJ Fleck's focus, Q, was to keep the focus on this game.
And I think we saw that yesterday in the walkthrough. Enthusiasm, focus on detail, great spirit. I mean, there was no overlooking this game. I loved what I saw from this Gopher team yesterday in their practice.
As single-minded of a practice as you're going to see, don't you think, Quinn?
Yeah, no, it had all the elements. It had attention to detail. It had execution. It had good spirit, good energy. Everybody was involved.
Leak on the return, and they need one here. And this is pretty well set up all the way across the 40-yard line to the 45. So Maryland gets it after we say hi to Matt Berry.
Guys, good afternoon. Speaking of Penn State and our CarMax Drive It Forward update, in action against Michigan State, coming off the bye week, Sean Clifford and Pat Freiermuth, 16 yards in right now over on ABC. Penn State up 7-0.
Does Freiermuth score every week? I feel like Matt cuts into our game every week, and Freiermuth has a touchdown, as Josh Jackson's going to play quarterback now for Maryland.
Yeah.
Seems like it. That Penn State game coming up after the bye for Minnesota. Jackson's got the handoff to McFarland. The transfer from Virginia Tech, Josh Jackson, who was 11-5 as a starter in Blacksburg. He had an ankle injury, missed the last couple of games. That happened against Rutgers, and now here he is in for Pigram, who threw a pick in one of his 2 drives.
Look, a lot of people were surprised when he left Virginia Tech, but things didn't sit well with him, according to those close to him.
Off play action. Jackson throwing, incomplete.
The word at Virginia Tech was that Jackson was asked to compete for his spot the following year after he's like, wait a minute, I'm 11-5. I've been the guy. What are you doing? What are you talking about?
And he was a starter before he broke his leg against Old Dominion, a game they ended up losing after he left.
Right.
3rd down and 3. Jackson, design roll, way too hot for Demas, and it's 4th and 3 now. If you're Maryland and you punt it here, you may not see the ball until after the 7-minute mark of the second quarter.
Yeah, I think Mike Loxley is okay with that because right now he doesn't know that they've got anything working cleanly where he's confident on a 4th down and 3 here. He's better off, kicking the ball away. Remember, that's the first action Jackson has seen in a few weeks.
They got now 24 yards on 3 drives, and so they will punt. Spangler, one of the 2 punters for Maryland. They've got a left-footed guy and a right-footed guy, and this goes to Douglas off the fair catch. Coming up tonight, 7:30 Eastern, another one of our unbeatens. It's not supposed to be a perilous game, but that's what we said about Georgia a couple weeks ago, et cetera, et cetera. So in Death Valley, ACC Network primetime, Dave O'Brien and his crew have the call. It's presented by Geico. Any landmines there for Clemson you foresee?
Boston College always seems to play them tough. A.J. Dillon at running back, they do a little bit of the Minnesota thing and control the ball. Yeah, I mean, it could be a closer game than the experts expect.
Again, 9 unbeatens remaining in college football. Minnesota one of them. Rodney Smith hopping through the hole, and boy, is he a ramrod right now. First down, Minnesota.
Great block on the left side, the strength of that offensive line. Andrews, the left guard, and Olsen, the center. And just a little jump to the side. Man, he's really good, and nobody notices him. Nobody talks about him.
No, he dyed his hair like Shadow, the Sonic the Hedgehog character, because he feels like people don't talk about Shadow either. And he has been the guy that's been somewhat in the shadows for Minnesota after a knee injury last year. But a strong first quarter.
He's been here 6 years.
And this is incomplete, so second down.
Yeah, a little run pass, and nobody was on the same page. But you're right. You go back to Smith. He's been here a while, 6th year. He's seen an awful lot in his time, and it's sort of nice for a guy like that to be enjoying the fruits after what P.J. Fleck said. He said, look, the guy's been here. He's gone through injury, gone through some good times, gone through bowl games, gone through a coaching change, gone through a rape scandal, gone through a boycott. It's all that stuff. And now to see him have some success here, and the rape scandal wasn't about him.
No.
It was more broadly for the team.
Smith again. A little shimmy. And Rodney Smith finally stood up at about the 38-yard line by Ayinde Ely.
Yeah, he knows when. You look at his rushing yards the last 2 games. He knows when to turn on the jets when he's running outside, when to be patient now, and to read, when to lower the shoulder and finish the run.
That's what he said. He said, don't rush it. Keep my eyes open. Trust my instincts. And we've seen on tape, Rod, lately his cutback ability has been outstanding.
Amazing, Q. He reads. He's just feeling it. He's just playing free right now.
He comes out. Green again. The Wildcat quarterback is in. And we have a whistle and a timeout for Minnesota.
Timeout.
So
Minnesota,
the Gophers are out of timeout.
timeout.
How often do you see a team up 2
seconds.
scores in the first quarter and they've used all their timeouts?
It's odd.
Very. So P.J. Fleck will huddle them up on a 3rd down and 2. They have more weapons than I think people around the country realize.
Yeah, they're not
Minnesota.
they're not the same team that began the season with all of the close cardiac wins we talked about last play, overtime, all that stuff. They've grown into their own identity now, particularly on offense. And they know that they can run the ball. They've got that big offensive line, and they know they've got a couple of elite receivers on the edge. And Morgan, no ego, just gives the ball around. Just, distributes.
Did you say elite receivers? You've been hanging around PJ for too long.
He wears on you. He does say elite all the time.
How you doing, elite? There's Morgan split out wide. They still have Green as the Wildcat quarterback.
They run a lot of different things out of this formation.
We saw power last time, and it's power this time. First down.
Yeah, and that was the touchdown play. Why change it when Maryland hasn't stopped it?
Yeah, somewhere along the line, Maryland's going to have to commit more players, more helmets, more bodies to stopping the run.
14-0, nowhere really for P.J. Fleck to go on the changeover. They're right around midfield. You talk about Minnesota nice. This has been Minnesota nice in the first quarter. 14-0 the Gophers. Back here to Minnesota, where the Gophers lead 14-0, and more are jumping on the bandwagon here. They have questions about whether or not College Game Day may show up in a couple of weeks for that Penn State game after their bye. We are actually the closest FBS game to Game Day's site this week. Not far. Wouldn't have to go terribly far. That's a wide open man again, Tyler Johnson, for a first down, Minnesota.
I wonder if Maryland is more fearful of the wide receivers than the rushing attack, but I'm with you, Q. You can't just let a team run up and down the field on you. If it means you got to bring another guy in and you got to play man-to-man coverage, you got to stop the run at some point.
It's a slow death this way, and Minnesota has shown, you guys have mentioned it, how patient they're willing to be.
Yeah, they don't mind a slant here and a run there and another one. Short gain on first down. So you got Ibrahim, Smith, and Brooks all in the backfield. They'll see carries today as they split the total number of touches.
PJ called them Mount Rushmore yesterday. He goes, hey, my Mount Rushmore of running backs. Called the guys up. But doesn't Mount Rushmore have 4?
Yeah, well, maybe he's got one up his sleeve. Lawrence Maroney, Marion Barber have been here. Maybe he's got some other guys hiding on the bench too. Morgan loads at time. Tipped and caught. That's the way it's gone for Minnesota in this first quarter plus. Bateman ends up with it. Johnson was a target.
Yeah, it's an overthrow for Johnson. It winds up with Bateman. He's on the move. Look, here's Johnson. That's the guy I want. Oh, can't get him. Bateman's right there.
I mean, come on.
It's just all falling into place.
Is this the season the Gophers get themselves another national championship? People are wondering. They have 7 in their history. They've got a tough schedule coming up, but if kismet like that keeps happening, they're very scary. Shannon Brooks, part of Mount Rushmore.
All right. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Well, we've been here for a few days.
Yeah.
People in Minnesota are talking about that.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
But literally no one nationally has paid attention to Minnesota, even though they should. They're an undefeated team. People are shocked to find them leading the Big Ten West.
What they do plays, though. I mean, they can make a team that's maybe better than them a little tired, a little worn down,
a little frustrated.
That's right.
Now we've got a loaded box. Here's Maryland saying, yep, run at us now.
Morgan to throw. Another one of those slants. Beautiful ball. Touchdown.
And that's
Tyler Johnson.
That's the problem.
You said it, load the box. Maybe you'll get beat. They did.
Well, you load that box. Can you play one-on-one with Tyler Johnson and with Bateman? Waiting for the slant. Johnson gets inside, jukes his guy so badly, he's on the ground. It's an easy throw for Morgan, and look at that. 20-0 sitting on a PAT.
There's some good hands on Tyler Johnson, by the way. He's a senior from here in Minneapolis, went to North High School. And Minnesota's got a 21-0 lead. Still unbeaten, the Gophers. 3 touchdowns for Minnesota, the last one to Johnson.
Yeah, and the adjustment for Maryland, as we talked about, load the box, right? Yeah, well, then that gives you single coverage everywhere else. And how about that? If you can't hold up on the back end like that, it's a problem. Man-to-man coverage and tangle of the feet as a good route by Tyler Johnson has Dean Jones on the ground.
Spent some time running routes with Tyler yesterday. Told me he runs every route exactly the same. The little head and shoulder fake and the strong jab step.
Q, a good defensive back should never ever see his head and shoulder fakes. Your eyes should be at the belt buckle. Lower numbers. Should never see the head and shoulder fake.
Leak will take it from the end zone. And a nice return last time to the 45. This one ends up at the 27. There is a flag in. Midland, Michigan's Jeff Cervinski, our referee.
During the return, holding return team number 12. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Maryland football, first down and 10.
Let's go to the studio, Matt Berry.
This is Jason Benetti special over on ABC. Penn State, Michigan State, Clifford to Freiermuth. You wanted it, you got it. Freiermuth again, Penn State up 13-0.
He scores every week twice now.
It makes you very happy.
But it really is like 4 straight weeks, I feel like.
That's a good catch by you. It's impressive.
Yeah, Penn State, one of the hopes now for the Big Ten and the college football playoff as Pigram is in at quarterback for this handoff to McFarland. So they've gone from Pigram to Jackson and now back to Pigram at quarterback for Maryland today.
Yeah, it may take a while to get Josh Jackson comfortable and back in the flow. He's been out for several weeks, and they really need a drive right now.
How do you respond to adversity? This is a team that didn't play well after falling behind against Penn State and Purdue. Mike Loxley wanted to see his team play without looking at the scoreboard.
Well, there was reason to believe. I mean, they came back in that game against Indiana, had a chance to win that game, which would have been big for their bowl possibilities. And this is a tester here because they don't see the ball after halftime either.
Well, they have to get back into rhythm. They are a team that runs counter, power, and heavy screen game. We've not seen the screen game yet, so not into their normal routine.
Pressure coming. There's the swing pass. It goes to McFarland out of the backfield, and he's got the first down. That's what they do.
Yeah, a little slip screen there to McFarland, getting back into their routine. And then off of those things, you know, they take shots. They are a big play offense, so they can get back in the game in a hurry with a couple of big plays. But until they have a rhythm and some confidence in their offense, they're going to struggle. This is a good start for them.
McFarland loves the offense for that reason. He was an all-around back in high school. Now more of a chance to catch some passes as Pigram wings it to the far side for a first down once again. So this one goes to Carlos Carrier, his first grab.
Yeah, pace is with them. They've got a little rhythm going right now. Seeing the slip screen, counter. So back into what they normally do. And maybe that was the reasoning for going back to Pigram, just to get into the rhythm that they've had with a quarterback in there the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Looked like some fake pressure coming from Barber, and there was a flinch on the line.
Full start. Offense. Number 71. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Yeah, Minnesota is not a heavy blitz team. Maryland knows that, or should know that, and should be patient until you get into obvious passing situations.
Pretty heavily penalized team, Maryland. That's number 50 on the year, which is the second most in the Big Ten. Leak. Tripped up by Barber.
Yeah, how many times have you heard the name Barber?
I mean, it's
the University of Minnesota.
It's decades upon decades of Barbers in jerseys for the Gophers.
He's the son of Marion Barber, who was a star running back here. Also NFL running back for a number of years.
Yeah, brother Marion, dad Marion as well. And he kind of faked out his father in his first game. He didn't tell dad he was going to play. Dad was watching and said, why is somebody wearing my kid's jersey number? And mom said, no, that is your kid. Coughlin couldn't get there. It is incomplete. Looking for Carrier. Matt Berry in the studio. Don't tell me Freiermuth scored again.
No, I do not have a Freiermuth update. What I do have is TCU, who actually closed as the favorite against Texas. Max Duggan, 24 yards to Pro Wells, and it's Frogs up 10-3 on Texas.
Good stuff in the Big 12. They did lose their possible college football playoff team, as now this is a blitz situation for Minnesota.
Yeah, they've got their pass rushing unit in, and they've been known to bring pressure when they do that.
Only 3 rush, and they still get there on Pigram, who keeps his feet. And dropped by Oliver.
Yeah, that's a problem when you can't block 3, because they're dropping 8. And so Pigram had no one open, no one he could find. They only rushed 3. He got 3 men blocking 1 in the middle, and they can't hold up on this, and Pegram simply has to take off. That, you know, they've got to get it together.
That brings us to our PlayStation player impact rating. It's Carter Coughlin who had the first touch on Pegram there. Look at the pressures. 16% of his rushes. He gets there. He got there that time. And Maryland will have to boot it away again. Douglas muffs the ball. And he's back on top of it. That was touch and go for the Gophers, but they will have it when we come back. Well, we know PJ Fleck loves to row the boat, and we also know Disney Plus is coming out on November 12th, so our intrepid crew decided to try our hands at some cartooning. Here is the boat. South Dakota State, Fresno State, Georgia Southern, ding. Win against Purdue, close win. Beat Illinois, drub Nebraska, ding. Ding. Smooth sailing. Ta-da! 7-0.
Wait, what's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon? Penn State, Iowa, Wisconsin, all still with the waves and the white caps coming for PJ Fleck. I mean, the schedule is treacherous. They have found their way through the ocean so far, and we'll see what happens from now on.
The 7 wins have come against unranked teams. They'll get 3 unranked teams down the road.
Yeah, the only one unranked team, Northwestern, 3 ranked teams left on that schedule as they're backed up once more. It didn't hurt them last time on an 84-yard touchdown drive earlier. And Rodney Smith keeping the legs going. Matt Berry in the studio has an update. What this time?
Okay, guys, we're going back to Fort Worth for Texas TCU. And Sam Ehlinger not entertained by the Duggan touchdown because he goes 47 yards to Devin Duvernay. We're all tied at 10 in the second.
I don't think 10's going to win it today.
No, not at all. But, you know, in the Big 12, everybody plays everybody, which is one of the issues in the Big 10. We talked to both coaches about scheduling, and they think it's hurt them when it comes to the college football playoff. In Minnesota's schedule, they've skipped some teams this year.
Smith again. Oh, my goodness. I mean, he just turned himself into a piece of farming equipment.
Great feet. Amazing feet on contact. Look at him churn, and his knees and feet keep grinding.
And Q, not only that, he finishes the run. He falls forward, 2-3 guys on him, and he doesn't get knocked back at any point. Finishes it off.
He lost football last year. He tore his ACL. He said in the Star Tribune this morning he didn't even know who he was really. He lost his identity. And Rodney Smith is running as hard as anybody in the country right now. That one's batted right at the point of attack for Ely.
Well, what he said about losing his identity, you know, kind of happens to athletes, football players in particular, when you get hurt. But more importantly, he said he's kind of depressed.
Yep.
You know, he actually was depressed. And, you know, it's good that we're hearing and seeing more athletes admit that and get help. He got help here, and it's a good message, not just for athletes, but, I mean, students, man. We've got a lot of students who suffer from depression and the like.
Yeah, and he said even in the sports culture, sometimes you think, hey, I got to be a tough guy, and he was so glad that he decided to discard that notion because it's really changed his belief in himself.
Yeah. Take off the mask and just talk about it. And that's what this game today, this mental health awareness game, is bringing attention to.
Yeah, that's the goal today for Minnesota. It is Mental Health Awareness Day here at the game, and as Quint mentioned, it's important certainly to Rodney Smith and so many others on college campuses across the country.
What kind of pressure can Maryland generate on a 3rd down? They haven't done much of that.
Minnesota perfect on 3rd down. Morgan to throw, and this is going to be short anyway. It's incomplete. So if you're just tuning in, you are just learning along with us that Minnesota has a punter today.
That's a start. If you're Maryland, that's a start.
It is.
That's their first stop of the day.
Listen, this is a big play offense they have, so they can get back in this with the players too. So 21-0, yeah, it's huge. It's a lot. Doesn't mean that they're out, though. They need a score before halftime.
Berbers to punt. Rashad Lewis sees it check up, so good field position coming from Maryland on the other side.
We're one Minnesota. And when you're starting to see how this whole thing can really work in this whole Twin Cities area, that's what we're talking about. But our fans were unbelievable today. That's the best college football environment I've ever played in as a head football coach.
So let me go deep to Bateman. He's out there. Got it. Down the sideline. Way go. 30, 20, 10. The place has gone nuclear. Touchdown.
You see those signs, Lee Fitting? You see him, Jim Galliero? You see him, Herbie? They want game day here in a couple weeks. If they win and then Penn State comes up in 2 weeks, why not, right? Quint, do you know anything about this? People have been asking you today.
Oh, yeah, everywhere I walk today. I've had like 5 or 6 fans ask me, we want game day, we want game day. I say, you know, LSU's playing Alabama that same Saturday. Oh, Auburn's going to win tonight. Alabama's going to lose. So you've got a lot of fans here rooting for Auburn tonight.
Well, game day has never been to Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's one compelling thing for me.
Absolutely. And PJ Flex said, look, we do big moments well. We've done the Super Bowl. He said, we'll have 4 million Minnesotans here for game day, which might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but, you know, they do parties well here. Pigram on the run, and Tyrell Pigram to the 41. Matt Berry in the studio.
All right, guys, checking in on Auburn and LSU, the first top 10 match between these two programs in Baton Rouge since 1972. Joe Burrow to Terrace Marshall. Back from injury, push off, maybe not, doesn't matter. Touchdown Tigers, 7-3 in the second.
What was that those fans were telling you, Quint? LSU's going to lose?
They're rooting for Auburn tonight. Rooting for Arkansas tonight.
Could be an uphill climb. McFarland here sets up second down.
Listen, I've been a part of games where I've been down 21-0. And you can easily lose your focus. You just need to hang in there and have something positive happen. If you get that score to cut it to 21-7 before the other team scores, it lifts the whole team, and you're right back in it.
Movement at the line. Who will it be that's flagged? And they had the penalty on the last drive, really hurt them.
I'm glad you didn't ask me how many times I was
Maryland's
down.
I was thinking it.
This offense is not built to sustain long drives, so penalties are killers.
Offside. Defense number 19. That 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
I was going to ask you how many times it was your fault you were down 21-0.
Yeah, well, I only remember the comebacks, though.
Right, a selective memory,
exactly.
right, like a pitcher. It's on Shad, the defensive lineman. So a first down for Maryland, moving down to 5 of the first. McFarland again, and not much there.
I'd like to see Maryland make an effort to get Demas, number 7, involved. He is an outstanding young receiver, sophomore, 6'3", 200, big play guy. He's matched up against another tall player. St. Juice, the corner, is also 6'3". Right now, he's facing Thomas, who's 6 feet tall.
Down at the bottom of the screen. Instead, they'll swing it out for McFarland. Matt Berry in the studio. What you got this time?
Do a little more Big 12 football, shall we? Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Can another Oklahoma State school, or Oklahoma school rather, get avoided here? Chuba Hubbard, big 65-yard touchdown. Oaks up 21-10.
That's Canada's finest, Chuba Hubbard.
There's the guy up top.
One catch for Demas very early on today.
Now he's not in man coverage. Safety over the top.
They backed off him. Down the middle, tipped, intercepted once again. Second pick of the game for the Gophers. Coney Durr is going to the house. 72 yards.
try to get it to Demas on a crossing route. The ball was thrown pretty well. He just didn't handle it. He doesn't handle it. And wow, Durr is right there. Maybe this is just Minnesota's year. This is the second time a ball has been tipped and it's dropped into the hands of a defensive back from Minnesota and set them up for a score or been a pick six.
Extra point for Lance. An ill-fated trip for Pigram to Coney Island. Durr off the tip. Takes it home. It is all Gophers this afternoon. This season, Taco Bell is celebrating student sections and passionate fans like these by awarding the Liv Moss Student Section of the Year. The Minnesota Golden Gophers Student Section is already on the national watch list. And go to ESPN.com/Taco Bell to see how your school can compete or get the committee's attention by using hashtag Liv Moss Student Section Contest. Coney Durr, the metrics love him. Defensively, he's been very good in coverage. He gets himself a pick six, and they are amped over on the sideline. Leak decides not to, and Matt Barry's got an update for you.
Yes, I do, gentlemen. Coming up, the Lexus halftime report. Oklahoma goes down in Manhattan, plus the Buckeyes roll against Bucky, and we've got a good game going on between LSU and Auburn. We'll update you on that. Jesse Palmer, Joey Galloway join me coming up on the Lexus halftime report.
Auburn got a shot there. What do you think? Maybe
a puncher's chance. That's a tough place to play. They're lucky they're not playing a night game. Oof. Have no shot then.
Love the feature on game day about that offense and how systematic they have been in creating explosive plays in Baton Rouge. McFarland for about a yard. Renner and Boye Mafe together on the stop.
And Maryland could use some explosive plays themselves right here. That has been their calling card this season, and they don't have any today.
Where's it coming from? Demas only seen the ball a couple of times. They targeted him last time. Run game maybe, and that one snuffed out beautifully by Coney Durr again. So Winfield gets a pick, gets a run stop. Durr does the same.
Well, they haven't had the ball either a lot. I mean, Minnesota has dominated time of possession. You feel a little bit of pressure when that's the case. And now you wind up in these third and long situations. Minnesota brings in their pass rushing front. You're at their mercy right now.
Six bearing down on the line. We'll see how many come. 4+ delayed pressure. This to the sideline is going to be short of the line to gain for Demas. And it's 4th down again. St. Juice was right there with him.
Good coverage, good pressure.
Timeout for an injured player.
And Tiggy's been sort of limping around.
Left knee.
Yep.
That dated back to last week.
Yes.
In that Indiana game late. And so Pigram down on the ground. He got chopped pretty hard by Oliver.
Well, they had 6 on the line of scrimmage. 5 of them came. They didn't block them all. One sitting there as a spy, and he takes a shot. You see Jackson warming up.
This Maryland team's been riddled by injuries all season long. Actually started in summer camp. It has been one of the main storylines in Mike Loxley's year number 1.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And Q, I don't think we've had a weekend where we haven't seen a quarterback knocked out of a game, at least temporarily.
It's amazing across the landscape how valuable that backup quarterback, that third-string quarterback can be.
Well, it's also a bit of a change. We've talked to coaches about protecting the quarterback. You know, should you change rules more? There's not much more you can do before you make it the NFL game, and you know there's a reluctance to do that. But a lot of that is, you know, offensive coordinators put their quarterbacks in harm's way.
Douglas back to receive the punt. Maryland has been busy kicking on 4th down. the fair catch. There's also a piece of that that speaks to the transfer situation in the FBS as well. People say, well, don't transfer, stick it out. And part of the reason you might think about that, even though we both agree it's good to have that flexibility, is because you're probably going to play if you're the second quarterback now.
Yeah, I think that's right. But, you know, when you talk about, you know, the changes in the game, in the NFL, the first thought with your quarterback is, what's my protection? How do I protect him in the passing situation? And how do I keep him out of the run game? In college football, it's different. The first thought isn't pass pro. We see a lot of protection with 5 men, not 6 or 7. Quarterbacks get hit in the pocket, and then when you run them, they get hit more.
Yeah, we've had a couple coaches talk to us about how much more college quarterbacks run in the first place. As ball was tipped, or the arm was hit for Morgan, second down. And that's true. There is more of the RPO stuff in college football.
And it's not just the RPO and, you know, zone read. It's pass protection. When you protect the quarterback with only 5 guys, because you want to get as many receivers out as possible, your quarterback is at risk. You are basically saying, I know my offensive linemen, each one will win their battle. That's a big assumption. Usually your quarterback takes a hit.
As Morgan did there, Ibrahim sneaking through and nearly keeping his feet. He does have a first down. Minnesota, remember, gets the ball out of halftime.
Yeah, they're out of timeout, so it's going to be interesting how they approach this last minute and 49 seconds.
Good job, good spin by Ibrahim inside. They've got time to sort of play with things even without the timeout right now.
How about a deep shot? Looking for Bateman and picked off by Lewis. Lewis takes himself into the end zone, so Marcus Lewis gets by a lineman and Schluter. Lewis keeps his feet. It's a slow motion chase, and down he goes at the 46.
I think he was tired.
I think he was tired, too.
He was tired.
Either that or he pulled a hammy.
Well, remember, he had defended all the way down the field. He was covering Bateman down the field. Now he makes the pick. This is a long run now.
Yeah.
So he's already gone 50, and now he's got to go back another 50 and across the field. He doesn't kick it into high gear. He's like, I just got to get to the sideline, man. I got to get to the sideline.
I mean, maybe a pitch. I know a lot's gone wrong there, but he was looking for a teammate or somebody tackle him. So Maryland gets it back, and Carrier spins right near the marker. So they got 1:09 left, and maybe that's the opening that Maryland needs. So look, Maryland now has gone down to a 3rd quarterback. The coaches told us that Dessous might get a look, and in fact Tyler Dessous is into the ball game for the first time. The redshirt freshman out of Virginia Beach gets some run here. So Jackson back after the ankle sprain,
nice
and Dessous on target to Demas.
Nice throw by Dessous. Low and only where his guy could get it. This tells me that Jackson isn't completely healthy.
Mike Loxley hinted to us about that pregame. Coughlin coming. Dessous whips it out of bounds.
And we had Jackson out there for a couple of series. His accuracy was off a little bit. He moved around a couple times, took a hit. I suspect that it's not an issue of just the rust, but that he's just not completely okay.
Now, Maryland, a couple things here. Number one, they haven't made a field goal this season. Number two, they're down 4 touchdowns, so 37 seconds, 3 timeouts. You'd imagine they'd go no matter what here. That's Leak on a big run down the sideline. Leak is inside the 5. Houghton took him down. It's a gain of 33. There's a big play for Maryland.
Yeah, tremendous job on the left side. They got great blocking by Christie, the left guard, with a little help from the center. They really handled that side well, and a huge hole opened up. Good cut by Leak to get out there. He reads it perfectly.
You misfit, Rod. If you misfit against Maryland, look out, because they can take it to distance. And so far, Minnesota's defense has done a fabulous job.
Yes.
Being in the right gaps. Not as much on that play.
No, great job up front, the left side. by Sean Christie, in particular, the left guard, kind of washing things down inside. And Leak read it, jumped to the outside. No edge player inside to kick him back inside. Now you got 29 seconds, Q. You got 3 timeouts. You know, you don't have to throw it here. You've got time. You got a couple timeouts left after spinning that one.
They'll split Demas out to the right, but Minnesota matches up with their tall corner.
Yeah, St. Just has been the guy with size in the past.
I think you can run it another time down here. You've got plenty of timeouts.
And they will with Leak. So they'll use the second timeout down to 24 seconds.
Second team charge timeout.
What they learned on that play, too, is that Minnesota is willing to go one-on-one with St. Just against Demas to the wide side of the field.
Don't forget, later tonight, number 8 Notre Dame with its only loss against Georgia, taking on Michigan at the Big House, 7:30 Eastern on ABC and the ESPN app. Notre Dame hasn't won in Ann Arbor since 2005, and you heard the breaking news on game day that the series will continue. But enjoy this one because the series is not going to continue until like 2030. So soak it in tonight.
That's a long, long wait.
That is.
9 in white. The H-back tight end, Chigoziem Okonkwo. He's been quiet.
Yeah, Q, he's up to the top.
They'll roll that direction. Maybe a throwback to Sue. Pressure bearing down on him from Barber, and it's 3rd and goal.
Yeah, that throwback wasn't there. Great job by the Minnesota defense. But I like that Maryland moved Dessou out to the right side. Wide field. They might have had more options had they kept running receivers that way. You know what? I would run that again and give my inside guy a shot. Go to the wide side of the field.
They've got the 3rd-string quarterback, Dessou, the redshirt freshman. Coughlin was coming after him, and he sideswiped him. Carter Coughlin got there again. And here comes the final timeout for Maryland.
Yeah, Coughlin, part of that pass rushing unit that's in, engages the D lineman and beats him handily. Had Duncan on him and gave him one bump and used his speed and quickness to get around him.
13 seconds.
Now you're taking the points here. You're going to kick to at least get some points.
Well, you've just proven on 3 plays you couldn't get into the end zone. So, yeah, I'm going to take the points to have something on the board.
Now, remember, if they kick to this side of the field, they're going to have to deal with the dramatic Gopher.
The dramatic Gopher.
You can't look at it. Whatever you do, you're the kicker here. Joseph Petrino. Just don't look at it.
What happens? Your heart turned to stone. They put a big Gopher on the video board, if you've not seen it.
Don't look up.
Where's the dramatic Gopher? There is the Gopher.
Oh, Q, he just looked up. How do you not look up? You got to look at the goalpost, right?
You know where they are. You don't need to look up.
Petrino staring into the eyes of the Gopher for 3. And he wins against the icy stare of the former Chipmunk.
Take that. But if we kill all the Gophers,
then Caddyshack wouldn't have happened. 10 seconds to go in the first half, and a little bit of a positive sign for the Terrapins going into the break.
Yeah, momentum, something to at least count on. They can move the ball. You know, they had opportunities down there, and now they're working with their 3rd-string quarterback.
Quint, did you look into the eyes of the Gopher? Are you okay down there?
I did. I stared him down. I had a good look at it, but I was well prepped all week.
That's fantastic.
The gamesmanship that goes on, that exists even at the NFL level. Talking to former Ravens kicker Matt Stover. He said his first time he kicked at New Raven Stadium, they put a close-up shot of his face up there, and he got back to the facilities management. He's like, no, I would just give me some landmarks on the board. When the opposing kicker shows up, show his face type. So that goes on at all levels of kicking.
So he didn't want to look at himself. He wanted something to help guide him. Interesting. all Minnesota here in the first half. 7-0 the Gophers. 9 wins in a row dating back to last year. And this will be 25.
I wonder if C-Mac will talk about not winning the Heisman. He really deserved it that year, his junior year at Stanford.
He was marvelous.
Yep.
A lovely year for McCaffrey. 28-0 became 28-3 despite the ocular fearsome colors here in Minneapolis, and maroon and gold have been the colors of note so far today. Antoine Winfield Jr. an interception leading to the first score. They have a pick 6 as well as part of our first half stats, brought to you by Dell. Minnesota outgaining Maryland by 100. Third downs have been a problem, turnovers too. So Rod Gilmore, I ask you, what have we learned about unbeaten Minnesota in the first 30 minutes?
We learned that they play better defense than people have given them credit for. And really, you think about what they did in the first half. Their goal coming in, not to give up a big play, you know, at least not 2 of them anyway, over 25 yards. They gave up 1 33-yard run to Leak. Other than that, 2 takeaways, Leak's pick, and then Durr's pick 6. They've been sound against the run and opportunistic with the tip drill.
7-0 Minnesota with Penn State on the horizon, and just a couple of weeks after a bye, Demetrius Douglas saw a gap and he hit it hard down to the 38-yard line, where Tanner Morgan will have the ball again. Quinn.
Maryland's on defense right now, but when they do get the ball, you'll see Tyler Dessou. Coach Loxley letting me know that Tyrell Pigram is not available, and Josh Jackson actually moves to the backup role. Dessou, redshirt freshman. He was the spring game MVP, and coach telling me that everything is in his arsenal. He can do everything in the offense. Turnovers have been an issue for the youngster.
He's one of those guys that took advantage of the 4-game redshirt rule last year. He played in 4. He had a couple of completions to his name, so he has played in the past, but he's only thrown 1 pass before this year. Morgan tucks it and goes down at the 41.
Yeah. And Jason, the most interesting thing Coach Loxley said was kind of, you know, he was honest with me, and he's been straightforward in year 1. He said, we've got nothing to lose. You know, we've just got to relax and play and try to improve, ignore the scoreboard, and get some little victories along the way here in the last 30 minutes.
It's a team that hasn't won bowl games very much in recent memory. They went to 3 straight big bowl games under Ralph Friedgen. Loxley was a coordinator here in that era, as Smith finds his way to the 40-yard line once again. But you go back to that Scott McBrien era, 01 to 03. This was a fearsome program, and Loxley, who's from those parts, from the DMV area, trying to get them back there.
Well, on defense, if you don't protect the edge, doesn't matter who you recruit. You know, you gotta be sound and get guys inside where the rest of the help is, and Minnesota's been picking on the outside.
There it is again. Smith, another crease. I mean, what do you do?
Well, they're riding the edge player out. You know, you have to actually stop. You got to take that guy out and force it back in. You can't be on skates. Watch what happens here. Kind of a double team. They ride the edge contained player out. That's Jones, number 4. He's pushed out of it. He's got to make a stand now. It's a little hard for him to do that at 220 pounds when he's got a 300-pounder on him.
Yeah, Andrews 325 at left guard.
And he's just got to take the knees and create a pile up there.
Another run, Shannon Brooks. That's a first down.
When you're facing a guy that's that big, you can't play his game. And he wants to push you and the like. You're given 100 pounds. You can't play up there. You have to be athletic, scoot around him, or if you have to fight him, you got to go in and take his legs out. You got to go take him down.
I mean, that's the shot right there. I mean, just look at the size differential.
And it's not just there. It's across the board.
Yeah, the depth is an issue, offensive and defensive line for Loxley. Oh, Brooks ramming just outside the 20.
Yeah, that offensive line is really big. I know we've said that before, but when you see them up close or when you see them standing next to someone, you get it.
Bigger than the Vikings. Number 2 in terms of height. Number 5 in college football in terms of weight.
Yeah, Lele certainly helps that at 6'9", 400.
Yeah, and he is every bit of that.
So Seth Green in at the Wildcat quarterback. He had a touchdown earlier. And Green just straight ahead one more time, right down the boulevard as he did in the first half.
They've run that play 3 times. And 3 times they've led with Ibrahim, and they've gotten a lot of yardage out of it. And until they stop it, you can keep running it. Look at that great block. Ibrahim delivers right in the middle of the field there.
3 runs for Green, 10, 17, and 8. And as you said, all in the same play. So Morgan back at quarterback. And Brooks looking for the outside, and he's ridden down this time by Nick Cross, the freshman safety who got his first start last week.
Yeah, that's an adjustment by Maryland to actually bring a safety, down and let him read that and get into that gap and make that play. They've been keeping their safeties back, playing kind of a too high look. And as long as they've done that, they've wanted to run against it, Minnesota. These 2 guys back here. And at some point, you just have to concede, look, we got to get up and get involved. One of them has to come down and help against the run.
Morgan on the roll. This is tipped and incomplete. He wanted Johnson, so 3rd down coming up. I mean, Nick Cross is a key guy. Yeah, he made the stop on the first down play, but he's an ESPN 300 guy, so a highly thought of recruit, and he's out of DeMatha by way of Hyattsville, Maryland. That's the type of guy Mike Loxley wants in this program.
Look, Loxley is doing a great job recruiting. I mean, he knows the D.C. area. He actually knows the South. So they recruit in Atlanta. They've got a chance to really bring talented players into that Maryland program.
A check out of it, and a whistle before the snap.
First
timeout, Minnesota.
Timeout.
Well, PJ Fleck has not been shy with his timeouts. He burned all 3 in the first quarter and 1 here in the 3rd.
Don't kid with COVID. mHealth Fairview wants you to know that what you do today will affect your family and our community tomorrow. Good hand washing protects you and can slow the spread of the virus. Use soap and warm water. Be sure to wash both sides between your fingers, fingernails, thumbs, and wrists. Scrub for at least 20 seconds. Wash early and often. Wash your hands. Avoid big groups. Stay home. Don't go out. We've all got to do our part.
Welcome back to the Big Ten on ESPN. Balmy here in Minneapolis. 50s. ESPN College Football presented by PlayStation, a part of Auto Trader Tailgate Week. Good hats. A lot of maroon and gold around. They're hoping to have game day here in a couple weeks, and they're hoping to punch it in here on their opening drive, 3rd quarter. On a 3rd and 10 for the sophomore out of the state of Kentucky, Tanner Morgan.
Bateman on the bottom of the screen has been an issue for that secondary.
He had a touchdown earlier in these parts off a fade like this, and this one to the boundary.
Well, that counts as a stop for this Maryland defense. And, coming into this game, the Maryland defense had a stop rate of 73%. That was 29th in the country. And all the stop rate means is 73% of the time they keep you from scoring, which is pretty good. Now, the leaders this year have been Wisconsin and Ohio State at about 90%.
We saw Ohio State very successful on defense earlier today. Doink and good. Lance stabs 3, and it's 31-3 Minnesota. Possibly.
That's just
there might be a hint. We're playing an edition of Who's That Guy?
You really do give clues, don't you?
Yeah, I know, right? Like nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
You just didn't want it to be too hard for the audience, huh?
Well, I mean, look, they've worked pretty hard already today.
No,
there have been a lot of points.
I get you.
Yeah. Again, you think I produce all this stuff. Last week you were blaming me for graphics. Now this week I'm the guy giving the trivia hints.
First voice gets all the credit and all the blame.
Thank you so much. The partnership we got going here. Off the field goal for Minnesota to make it a 28-point game. Again, Javon Leak on the return. A little hurdle and he gets spiked down. A young man who grew up watching Barry Sanders went for the high hurdle and he is down on the sideline. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I'm right next to him. Slow to get up.
Timeout for an injured player.
Now he's back up. He told us during the week his mom texts him all the time in games saying, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt.
She told him not to do that anymore.
Holding,
yeah,
return team
that's
number
right.
9. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul.
Natasha's watching right now, texting him as we speak.
Well, yeah, he did that before, and she said, don't ever do it again. And then he did it again.
And then he got hurt briefly.
I think he's going to get another text.
I think so, too. Just glad he's okay and jogging off.
Absolutely.
A dynamic running back for Maryland. So off the holding penalty, the Terps move back to the 10. We're waiting with bated breath for the Aflac trivia answer, which will come after a play.
And then I can criticize you again for the selection and say, I confess it's your fault.
Can't wait. But there will be a whistle in the interim. Let's see what the discussion is. Well, they marked off the penalty. And now our crew will talk it over.
It's a good crew. This crew has been together for a couple years. Most of them have worked together for longer than that, but this crew itself has worked together for the last couple years. You love the tie look?
I do. I like it a lot. It's very Connie Mack.
Very Jim Tressel.
Yeah.
Tressel would never wear those sneakers.
It's got to be the shoes, huh? You got to have your own twist on things, Q.
So the redshirt freshman Dessou at quarterback. And the handoff to McFarland. Little stop, little stutter. Coming to the outside. Got a block from Dessou. And he goes down after a long way to go. Speaking of a long way to go, here's our Aflac trivia answer. It was back in 1941. Bruce Smith won the Heisman Trophy, the only one in Minnesota Golden Gophers history. And in fact, his story was so inspiring to Minnesota and the country. He was a single-wing tailback, became a Navy fighter pilot. He had a movie made about his life called Smith of Minnesota. And he played himself in that movie in Hollywood.
He was Top Gun before there was Top Gun.
Pretty much.
That's awesome.
I know as a flag has come in on the play, I know neither of you have starred in movies, right? I mean, the closest Quint has ever come to movies is knowing Uma Thurman when he was growing up, right? That's true, right?
No, I do watch movies occasionally, Jason.
Well, but you did know Uma Thurman when you were growing up,
oh, yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Bad play, Q. You had your shot.
She used to steal your lunch.
We summered in Woodstock. Both my parents were teachers.
Wait. You can't disparage her. She's not here to defend herself.
Number 72 and number 68.
She had a less than ideal upbringing.
She had to hang out with you.
Talk about spoiling a partnership. Man, take your shot.
That goes against Maryland.
Not going to miss your shot. Gosh.
He was outgunned and outmanned. Maryland 1 for 7 on third down. Over the middle, too much.
Wow.
Incomplete. He had Demas.
Tough day for Demas. That's another drop. The last drop resulted in Durr's pick 6. You know, these are young receivers. They are athletic. They are talented. They are tall. They will do well. It's just this first year in learning. It's going to take them a little while.
Left hash, they go with the lefty punter. That's been their MO today, Jason, with their two punters. Right hash, they go with the righty. Left hash, they go with the lefty.
Yep. Continuity in that. As Douglas is back to receive off a fair catch. Take a look at our game ready. It's brought to you by Cintas, and we are ready for later on 7:30 Eastern time on ABC, Notre Dame and Michigan. Harbaugh and Holtz and Mario Manningham and all the greats who have come through that game on Saturday Night Football, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific over on ABC.
I think Michigan will be focused and in there. You see the first meeting. Michigan is up in the series. Question is, will Minnesota generate enough offense tonight?
Michigan. Yeah, against Notre Dame. And you know, Notre Dame, if Georgia can find its footing and end up possibly in the SEC championship game, Notre Dame has a case, if they finish strong, to be a college football playoff team as well.
Well, I don't think we're going to finish with all of these undefeated teams. And so a one-loss team like Notre Dame with a good loss to Georgia, Oregon with a good loss to Auburn, they still have a shot. Outside looking in, but they still have a shot.
I worry about Oregon tonight against Washington State.
You do?
Well, Washington State's pounded them the last couple of years.
Morgan knew he had a guy and a diving grab for Ottman Bell. His eyes lit up when he scanned the field, and Morgan drills it.
Well, Minnesota does a good job of trying to make sure they get their playmakers involved, those three receivers. Kirk Sherrock told us yesterday it is one of the things on his hot list, if you will, to make sure those receivers touch the ball, they touch it early.
And they're going to go really super slow. The milking process has begun. If you need a beverage, you'll have a time in between plays. Get off the couch, check out the fridge, and come back.
They're going to say just go to the fridge and grab some milk to go along with the game.
You know, Q said earlier that he liked the shoes and that Jim Tressel would not wear a tie with those kind of shoes. Well, every week he kind of changes his shoes, something new. That's a gold look there for PJ Fleck.
Well, he changes his look based on what the team's going to wear as well. It's a little bit of a hint as to what they're going to wear. And
well, it matches the tie.
Yeah, Quint got himself a little tie tutorial yesterday from PJ Fleck. Taught you how to tie a tie. Maybe we'll see that a little bit later. Smith back in at tailback. And he's crashed down very quickly.
Yeah, that's one that Morgan needs to keep for himself with the read and take it to the edge. But in this situation, he's playing it smart and safe as offensive coordinator. Sherrock doesn't want him to run very often. And so he's taking that advice.
They run behind that left tackle, Sam Schluter, 70. Most improved player on this entire roster. Had a setback last year, lost his spot, but he has fought back. He's gotten stronger. He's gotten more technically sound. And in the second half of the season, he's been dominant. He's been really good.
That left side is the better side of that offensive line, Q.
He holds up here, and Morgan's going to run it. There goes Morgan again, and he's twisted down about half a yard short, maybe a yard. As Campbell was in on the tackle. You going here? Quint, what do you think? He hedged. You got to say it now.
Well, Michael Lance, freshman kicker, has had some issues this season. 4th and 1's a go. I mean, Seth Green, you go Wildcat here. They haven't come close to stopping you.
I'm not sure I want my kicker to get his practice on a 50-yard field goal.
No, and they're going to call timeout with 1 second to go on the play clock.
Remember, Minnesota is 6 of 8 on 4th down this year. And PJ Fleck will let it sap down to 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to improve confidence and all that, you don't send them out there and say, hey, go make a 50-yarder. We'll feel better about you.
Nah. Minnesota.
It's a wall of oars in the tunnel here at TCF Bank Stadium. Oars sent from all over the region and the country, family, friends of the program, and a lot of folks rowing with Minnesota now. It is a bandwagon boat as well. They are 7-0 top 20 in the country, and they've got a 4th down and 1 coming up.
Yeah, they've got Green in again. Now 3 times he's been there, and they've had huge gains. Let's see if they tweak their play here instead of just letting him have it.
Ibrahim is with him. Keep again. Green's got a 1st down, so he's gone for 8, 10, and 17. This one for 5 and a 1st down.
I think we may see that again.
Timeout.
Why wouldn't you?
Injured defensive team player.
Injured Maryland player. It is Howard, Kieron Howard, the senior out of Fort Washington at Potomac High School, on the defensive line for the Terps.
And Green's had quite the day as the Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah, he's a backup quarterback a couple years ago, and last year he runs 76 times, runs for 8 touchdowns. He had a big game in that Paul Bunyan's Axe game at the end
Wisconsin,
of the year,
yeah.
in Madison, and don't underestimate how important that game was to this program. If you watch the tape, when they got the Axe, they were just sprinting around Camp Randall Stadium because it had been more than a decade since they won that game.
And won it at Madison.
That's right.
That's the thing. I mean, they've paraded the Axe, Paul Bunyan Axe, around here before. But when you do it in Madison, in your opponent's backyard, yeah, you should sprint around.
Yeah, for
it's 14 straight years, right? 14 15?
Yeah. Yep, 14.
And we had covered the prior Axe game here. That wasn't close. It was a complete domination by Wisconsin. And PJ and his group were able to flip the switch a year later.
There's a team last year that lost 4 in a row at one point, changed defensive coordinators, and since then has won 9 games in a row. Not since that moment, but they had a very successful tail end of last year. Rodney Smith has great speed. He was tied up by Isaiah Davis that time.
You know, we're talking about time of possession and controlling the clock and the like. That is PJ Fleck's approach. I mean, he focuses on game management. He allows his coordinators to do their thing, and game management is his thing. How to use the timeouts, how to control the clock. Says he had a year with Jim Tressel, just 1 year, and that was all he focused on and learned, how to manage a game and how to make a team feel like they were suffocating.
This is the first stat he looks at. Time of possession.
Play clock is down to 1, and they're going to use another timeout. So, again, timeout conservation, timeout ecology is not high on the list for PJ Fleck.
Oh, he's got a big lead. He doesn't have to worry about it.
No, not at all. 31-3 your scores. We take a look at this week's college football rankings brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Down goes Oklahoma. Saturday strike through's coming.
Yep.
You don't want it, but sometimes you get it. LSU and Auburn tied at 10. Maybe a question mark strike through there.
You want a question mark?
Yeah.
I'll give you a question mark.
Which one? Penn State? You got questions on Penn
Florida,
State?
No. Well, not Notre Dame, Florida, Auburn. You want a question mark there, too?
Yeah.
All right. You want LSU with a question mark?
Yeah, I like it, too.
We got too many question marks.
We got a lot of questions.
I got to work on my question mark.
I got questions about your question marks.
Yeah, I'm not used to doing question marks.
But look, say LSU goes down, right? Say that happens. It's 10-10 right now. Say LSU goes down. First of all, you got Minnesota still unbeaten likely. Then you got Penn State very possibly still unbeaten. Is Old Crimson and College Game Day going to show up here in 2 weeks?
That's above my pay grade.
I already called out our bosses in the first half, so I'm basically done there.
And I'm saying he did it, not me.
Yeah, that's a nice separation.
Not going down with the ship, right? Look, I think the big issue is Oklahoma.
That really hurts the Big 12 today because, yes, Baylor's still unbeaten, but they're in the same category as Minnesota as unbeaten but questioned.
Yeah, weak non-conference schedule that the committee's not going to like. Remember, the committee really looks at what are your best wins? How many top 25 wins do you have? How many top 10 wins do you have? And neither Baylor nor Minnesota can point to those. So right now, if you're looking at it, you're saying, well, the Big 12 champ likely will be in trouble. The Pac-12 champ will likely be in trouble unless some things change.
Yeah, if Auburn beats LSU, Oregon gets some help there because that's Oregon's only loss.
Right.
Tanner Morgan loads up a throw. And at the 15-yard line, Ottman Bell says first down.
Hands underneath the ball. Whenever the ball is low, placement of the hands are critical. Not an issue. Caught it, rolled over. Good grab by Ottman Bell.
He's another one of those guys originally going to Western Michigan, recruited to Kalamazoo, and came to Minneapolis with P.J. Fleck.
Is that okay? You okay with that?
I think it speaks to, somebody asked me about that yesterday. It speaks to his belief that psychology is so important in major college football that you could bring somebody who is going to the MAC and have him play up in Minneapolis without a problem. Rodney Smith.
Listen, we've seen that 20 times today. They have picked on the edge. They have Campbell's down over there. Yeah, that's Campbell.
For an injured player.
Chance Campbell, a very talented lacrosse player growing up at Calvert Hall. He actually had an offer from John Tillman, the Maryland lacrosse coach, and Campbell, such a key part of this defense, is down.
You want to... Yeah, Campbell got involved. They've struggled. He and his mates have struggled to get to the edge, to turn things back in. And that's had guys on the inside like Campbell flying full speed out there, and you see that pile just falls on him. Falls on that lower right leg. But if we've seen it once, we've seen it 20 times where Minnesota has picked at the edge. They've used their tackle and tight end to get a hold of the edge guy who's supposed to turn things back inside, and because of the size differential, they've just run him out to the sideline, pushed him out of the way, and Smith has done a good job of getting in behind it and then deciding when to make his cut and take off.
It's another long drive, Rod. It's 6:18 off the clock, 10 plays, 59 yards, 8 of them have been runs. And they pick their spots so well in terms of their passing situations too.
So in 2 drives this quarter, Minnesota's had the ball, what, more than 10 minutes?
That's right. So Campbell coming off, and good news that he's under his own power.
You know how helpless you feel when you're standing out there. You can't get the ball back. You can't stop them. I mean, look at the look on Loxley's face. It's like, geez, can we get the ball back? What are we doing here? We can't get off the field. It's rough. Almost 11 minutes of ball control by Minnesota in this third quarter.
Maryland's seen the ball once. It was a 3-and-out.
Yeah.
Ibrahim, the tailback, on 1st and goal. Even when the clock's not moving, they use all the play clock.
Smart. We don't see a lot of offenses do that these days with the hurry up. They leave too much time in the game.
Johnson. Goal line. He's down.
Yeah, he cut that back inside, and he might have had more room staying to the outside. Watch this replay. He cuts it in to power into the end zone. You can see that he's down. You can see where that ball is. Yeah, I have no problem with the call on the field. But if he had stayed to the outside, he might have just gone directly into the end zone.
Smith over the top, touchdown. 7:41 off the clock.
Wow. Wow. Just up and over.
So we saw last week Casey O'Brien got his first chance to hold as a college football player. He is back out there, a young man who has fought off cancer 4 times, gets back on the field and holds for the extra point. What a beautiful soul Casey O'Brien is, and he's been so much to so many people, whether it be at the hospital here in Minneapolis. Last week it was 42-7, and Casey O'Brien came out for the first time in his college football career and did a heck of a job with a tough snap. And you see the reaction. I mean, this was so important to his teammates and to PJ Fleck. I mean, Herbers, who's the regular holder, said that he's thought for a long time that he might just lose his helmet to let Casey on the field to hold at some point. And let's be clear, though. PJ Fleck said to us this week, yes, he's a young man who's fought off cancer. Yes, he's inspirational, but he also is a kid who does so many things that aren't about cancer, aren't about football, and he is a well-rounded, wonderful young man.
Well, like a lot of cancer patients, he doesn't want cancer to define him. He wants to live his life. He doesn't want to be defined by that. And, you know, you see him out there on this last play, and he does his job. Now he's a football player. He's not a cancer patient right now. He is a football player, and he wants that to be a part of his life. You know, and we talked to PJ Fleck about him. PJ said, look, you know, I may not put him in the game. I'm a little worried about whether he gets hit. I don't want him to be hit, that sort of thing. But right situation, O'Brien gets in, he does his thing, and he's a guy that when he makes plays like that, it's not just for him. Cancer patients everywhere are inspired by it.
You can't see it under the long sleeves that he's got on today, but he wears these wristbands that he got from families who he visited in the hospital here. And some of those families have kids who've passed away from cancer. And Casey says, look, I do this for me, but for them, and for the world of people who weren't able to do what I've gotten to do.
Right. No, it was lovely to see so many shots of last week.
So many people touched by this.
Of cancer patients who were watching him as he went on the field to hold for that kick last week, who were cheering, you know, and almost some in tears. I mean, great photos we saw.
And Rod, can you imagine what it's like for a young person down the street at the hospital watching this game on TV? Casey comes on the field. There's Casey. And what a lift that would be to them.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's exactly what happened.
There's a screen game, and it's dropped. Incomplete to McFarland. And it's 4th down for Maryland.
And that's the story of Maryland's day. A drop for a play that maybe had some potential. 2 drops earlier, tips that led to interceptions by Minnesota, 1 for a pick 6. Maryland's an inch away in their execution.
Well, Q, you're right. They were off by a little bit early on. It cost them, and it took them out of their game. They got away from, you know, the counter play, the power play that they like. They got away from the screen game. They never got a chance to create big plays.
Punt goes rolling out of bounds. Under a minute to go, 3rd quarter here, and we talk about scores and time remaining and yardage all day long, but sometimes it's a lot more than just stats, because somebody like Casey O'Brien does what he does. Minnesota has had the ball so much here in quarter number 3. No chance for Maryland to come back in this game.
Well, that's the thing. They start running the clock, squeezing you, making you feel like you're just not going to get a shot because you don't get enough possessions left.
We've had the ball for 2:06 in the 3rd quarter. The Terrapins from College Park have. And Rodney Smith once again just so aggressive, hungry, running. Up 38-3.
I love his style. Love how hard he runs. As I said before, sitting third in the Big Ten behind Taylor of Wisconsin and Dobbins of Ohio State. He may be done for the day. That's what P.J. Fleck might be telling him.
It's a hug and run. P.J. is off, and so is Minnesota. 38-3, and an opportunity again for young Casey O'Brien, who will do so many wonderful things with what he's become as a person and as a player here in Minneapolis.
Don't kid with COVID. mHealth Fairview wants you to know that what you do today will affect your family and our community tomorrow. Social distancing helps you avoid contact with those who may be infected with the virus. What can you do? Steer clear of crowds of 10 or more people. Keep a distance of 6 feet between you and others in public spaces. And if possible, work from home. Wash your hands, avoid big groups. Stay home, don't go out. We've all got to do our part.
They are amped here at TCF Bank Stadium in its 10th season. Auto Trader Tailgate Week has Minnesota up 38-3. Looking to go to 8-0. And it's a second down and 3 for the Gophers. As Rodney Smith has gone over 100 yards, and they will turn to Shannon Brooks, who has a Golden Gopher first down. All right, so Minnesota looks like it's going to stay unbeaten.
Yep.
Who's the last unbeaten to lose?
It's easy. Clemson.
Really?
Who's going to beat them in the ACC?
I don't know. I mean, Syracuse did a couple years
Seriously?
ago.
No one's beating Clemson in the regular season. No one's beating them in the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
That's why, even though they may not be, the #1 team right now, they're locked to be in the playoff. No one in that conference is going to beat them.
Well, BC, you just said earlier, BC
they will give them a game.
Close game.
Tough.
A.J. Dillon.
Not beat them, though.
Brooks to the 50-yard line. I mean, look, nobody likes being overlooked, right? That ACC could rise up. You never know. You never know. There have been 20 to 30 point underdogs the last 3 weeks winning.
That's the trend, yeah.
Thanks, Quint.
It's the unranked, it's the unknown, it's the one you overlook.
Can I ask you a question?
Especially when it's at noon.
You feel good about that argument?
I do. I feel very strongly about it being viable. Oh,
who do you think?
Mr. Attorney's never made a spurious argument.
Who do you think will be the last standing?
I think it very well could be Alabama, although the SEC road is treacherous and Tua is injured. We'll see Mac Jones right after our game as Arkansas plays Alabama.
Now, you went to law school, so I'm sure you learned the same thing I did. When the facts are on your side, argue the facts.
Use the facts.
When the law is on your side, argue the law.
Use the
when
procedure,
neither are on your side, pound on the table.
Uh-huh.
You just pounded on the table.
Oh, I don't know about that. Quint's on my side. I got somebody sitting second chair with me. It's nice.
I don't have a law degree like you guys.
You might be better off.
Yes. Second down, they'll keep it on the ground. And this time it's a keep for Morgan. He finally held on to it, and he's got a first down.
Well, you show me
85%.
Where you think they're going to
At South Carolina. They already beat Georgia.
85%.
You don't like the Terriers from Spartanburg?
Final game of the season, 85%. Okay.
Wake Forest, look, no joke, Wake Forest is a good team.
I agree.
Dave Clawson has put them in position for a 4th straight bowl game. That's a very good team, but it's in Death Valley.
So you like Alabama to stay undefeated. I like Clemson.
I do. I would have said LSU's a possibility as well, but they're in a tough one today. There's another run for Ibrahim.
I'm surprised you didn't say Ohio State or Penn State.
Yeah, I kind of am too. Those are two very good teams, and I thought Wisconsin would give Ohio State a better game today. Yeah, honestly.
And I can see Minnesota giving Penn State all they want and more, which is why I would not pick Penn State. They're still a rough road. Ohio State's a different story. I'm not sure there's anyone in the Big Ten that can beat Ohio State. To me, they're right behind Clemson in terms of getting through the regular season undefeated.
Morgan down the middle, tipped, and that is picked off. Flag comes in. There's a marker in. It's intercepted. And we will see if it stands off the tipped ball. And the pick for Bazzi, the sophomore.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, Rod, when you see the replay.
Pass interference, defense, number 8. The ball be placed at the spot of the foul. Automatic. First down.
It's on the senior, Lewis.
When does the contact happen? Contact. We'll have to trust the refs on that one. Contact before the play.
It was as if Lewis tried to cut him off, to cut the slant off and beat him to the inside, and they collided.
And as a defensive player, you have every right to go for the football.
Exactly.
Would have been the second pick for Morgan and just his 5th of the year. So Tanner Morgan, a young man who was told he was too short to play quarterback for a long time. Handoff here, and Brooks inside the 10. It's first down and goal. People said about Tanner Morgan for so long he was too short that he met some coaches who were recruiting him wearing extra insoles in his shoes to make himself taller.
Oh, man. He said it gave him about, what, 1/8 of an inch or so. So instead of being 5'11", he was 6 feet. And he grew a little bit more later.
Quint, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
No, I would never stack up my insoles to gain a ½ an inch or so.
I had heard rumors to the contrary, actually, when you were being recruited to go play lacrosse. Huh.
A true story.
Interesting.
I did, and my fear was that I was going to fall on my face when I had to go up and accept the trophy. Because it felt like I was walking in high heels.
How many socks or insoles, Q, did you have to use?
I think I added about 3 extra insoles and made sure that the business shoes I wore were kind of in the high heel variety, not flats.
Wow.
It worked.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
It worked.
That's our guy. I love that they just showed your face off the score bug that we have there. That was nice for them to pop that up, just in case people see Quint around the country.
Yeah.
Just ask him about that.
See, I was more offended during recruiting when that question came up, when coaches said, well, how tall are you? I'd say 4'4".
Your defiance is wonderful.
Yeah.
Green is in as a Wildcat, and Maryland's going to burn a timeout.
That's my 40 time. How do you like me now?
Maryland, their first half.
I haven't changed much, huh?
Rod's rambunctious, 38-3, 2nd and goal after this.
Do you know what the U of M does for you? From farms to breweries and orchards to markets, discover how the University of Minnesota is cultivating a new crop of Minnesota businesses.
Do you know what the U of M does for you? From hooves to hands and paws to possibilities, discover how the University of Minnesota is making medical advances for all Minnesotans.
Coca-Cola invites you to share a Coke while tuning into our upcoming matchup, Notre Dame, Michigan, tonight, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Yeah, I want to see Coke bottles that have teams on the side. I like that. It's a good look.
You haven't seen one?
No, I haven't recently.
You got to get out more.
I do. That becomes clearer
I got
and
to
clearer.
take you out more. I got to get you out more.
2nd down and goal off the timeout by Maryland. They have 2 remaining. Green this time fakes the handoff, and Campbell back in makes the stop. We hadn't seen that so far.
First time they've stopped Green on a rushing play when he's come in and kind of run the wildcat thing. I mean, you know he's not in there to throw it. You know you're going to get a 2-back set with him being the carry guy.
He hasn't thrown the ball yet this season. He did throw a touchdown pass in 2018 against Miami of Ohio, and you know that's up their sleeve going forward in November.
With that daunting schedule coming up. Penn State, Iowa, Wisconsin remaining. 3 of their 4 games. Morgan dumps it off just short of the goal line for Johnson. Tyler Johnson, the local kid out of Minnesota North High School.
He's a guy who came back for his senior year. He is the pride of North High School, North Minnesota.
Played for the Polars there, the North Polars. And Green's going to come back in.
Why not? 4th down. They've held him in check only once.
Play number 11 of the drive. Green waltzes in. Touchdown.
Hey, we've talked about this all game, that left side of the offensive line with a huge size advantage has just been wiping out Maryland's defensive front and the edge player, the outside linebacker, or even if it's a strong safety who kind of comes down, anyone on that side just gets washed down inside by that left side, the left guard, left tackle, and the tight end.
Casey O'Brien back out to hold. And Walker in for the extra point. The big roar is for Casey O'Brien. 45-3.
ESPN College Football is presented by PlayStation 4, the best place to play, and in part by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Looks like Minnesota is going to go for Halloween as a top 15 team. The Gophers undefeated, up 45-3 at 7-0 with a bye week coming up next. Then Penn State to follow. You know, you look, 45-3 is a really nice score, but when they won the national championship in 1904, their points for and against were 725-12. So that would have been a quarter of the points they allowed that season.
That's entirely too much research. Entirely too much.
Well, you thought I went to dinner last night, but I was actually at the microfilm at the library.
Yeah. Hey, look, there's something to be said for taking care of business and dominating your opponent when people say your schedule is weak.
Yep.
When you dominate it, you're doing all you can.
And they didn't early. They have now in Big Ten play as Leak is on the return. And Javon Leak tripped up. Matt Berry in the studio.
Guys, got a good one going between LSU and Auburn. LSU elects to go for it on 4th and goal. Burrow is going to find Jamar Chase. But Chase, as we remain frozen in time here, Burrow, Chase stopped by a host of Auburn defenders. So they hold 4th and goal, 13-10 now in the 3rd.
How about that game? Tight one. 45-3 here, and Dessou off the throw has Carrier, who's got a first down. Ed Ogeron for LSU against everybody else in the top 10 hasn't lost. 0-3 against Alabama is a blemish on the record, but that's a really good team now.
Yeah, it is, but still, I have a hard time thinking that in a one-game winner-take-all, that a lot of folks are going to vote against, or pick against Nick Saban.
You're right, but that offense has been reimagined for LSU, so you get the feeling it's going to be a different LSU-Alabama game this year. At least that's the plan for LSU.
I agree. I think there will be more scoring. Alabama is more vulnerable on defense, but we've seen this so many times until it actually happens, Q. I can't pick LSU over Alabama.
Gentlemen, you're missing the biggest storyline in college football.
Freiermuth scored again.
The health of Alabama's quarterback.
It's true. Mac Jones this week instead of Tua. You think that affects him that much?
The guy's a Heisman front runner. They've been operating with 3 great receivers, absolutely humming to a level that we've never seen from them before in the passing game. And if he can't play or he's less than 100%, that's a giant swing.
You're right. I agree with that. The counter argument is that, look, he's had this type of injury before. He came back. He played well initially with it. Question is, does he have enough time? And he'll get a bye week. We'll see. He doesn't have 4 weeks. He only has about 2.5.
Down the sideline. Beautiful ball dropped in nicely. And this could go. Fleet Davis. Touchdown. Tayon Fleet Davis all the way. Now, he was tight roping the sideline. We will see if he stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, not a surprise route. We've seen this on tape. A wheel route out of the backfield, one-on-one. And hard to tell from that angle if he stepped out of bounds or not.
Again, the call on the field was touchdown, so you'd need evidence to overturn.
Yeah, he's locked up with Oliver, who was the linebacker trying to cover him. That one looks the most definitive, if you will.
Everybody at home is tilting their head to watch along with us on their couch.
Remember, if it's not indisputable, you really can't overturn it, and there wasn't enough with it. I'd go with that.
So Fleet Davis, who wore 34 in high school for Bo Jackson, then swapped to number 8, which was his White Sox number here in college. Fleet Davis takes it to the house and gets Maryland its first touchdown. Sports Center tonight. The good news is SVP doesn't have to be at the desk to do these highlights. Stan Barrett, Neil Everett have it for you after Washington State and Oregon. Astros Nats game 4. Notre Dame, Michigan reacts. And then college football analyst Heather Dinich details how Oregon or Utah can make it to the college football playoff. And Oregon certainly would be helped by an Auburn win today.
Well, they already got some help with Oklahoma going down.
Very true. Number 5 Sooners losing in Manhattan earlier on. We will see here if Maryland decides to try to onside kick it. Demetrius Douglas is back deep. Petrino on the approach. And they will just go ahead and boot it away. To the sideline, Douglas slides. Back to the touchdown for Maryland.
Yeah, we've seen the wheel route from Maryland a lot this season. Fleet Davis in the backfield. He's locked up one-on-one with Oliver, the linebacker. But watch the safety, Swinson. He should know that this is the most difficult matchup. Instead, he works back toward the middle, kind of letting that go. And look what happens now. He's a little late getting there to help out the linebacker. No deep help. And Fleet Davis off to the races.
That's the type of big playability we have seen from Maryland when it's been going well. The 63 against Syracuse as Jacob Clark has checked in to play quarterback. The freshman, he and Cole Kramer are both backup quarterbacks. And he will hand it off on first down. Another big run from Minnesota. I mean, you can plug anybody in right now. This is Potts.
Yeah, 23 yards. Look, you know, this is a challenging day for Maryland, but there's a lot of talent on this team. Mike Locksley has his work cut out for him, but he's sort of the right guy if you're going to keep talent in that talent-rich Maryland area.
He's got recruiting ties, certainly. His first coaching job was at Towson, right out of college back in the early 90s. Now Potts to the outside again, batting away defenders and a first down for Minnesota.
You think about the talent in that area. You know, Chase Young, probably the best player in college football at Ohio State, that defensive end. He's from that area. Locksley is the guy who has to stop letting the great talent get away and go to places like Ohio State and whatnot.
I was talking to Craig Hobart, the ESPN recruiting analyst who does the high school football package, does such a wonderful job. The top 22 recruits in the state of Maryland right now are going out of state.
Yeah.
So that speaks to exactly what you're talking about with the problems they've had, and also it's a different landscape than when Locksley was even around the first time, in that you kind of had your run of the place in terms of the local recruiting affairs.
Well, remember, he came in following a lot of controversy. Jordan McNair passed away. They had all the problems with, you know, changing routine there, firing some people, and, you know, had some players who were totally against a lot of what the university wanted to do. They stood up and spoke out. And so he came into that environment, put his program in, and is getting that done. They're talented players, but they're more talented players that they got to keep in the area.
When you put the DMV up on the national landscape, it's a 5th or 6th best fertile or richest recruiting ground in the country. And Mike Locksley's from Southwest D.C. He's got connections D.C., Northern Virginia, and Baltimore. But as you guys said, right now, the high-end player, he's headed off to Alabama or to Clemson. They've got to start winning the the battle between player, let's say 10 and 30, with schools like West Virginia, like Virginia Tech, like Rutgers, and keeping the talent within that 3-hour radius.
I wonder times, though, Q, if this isn't the best fit for Maryland.
Down the sideline, beautiful ball. Van Dyne upstairs from first and goal on his first grab. Harry Van Dyne.
6'5", 215 pounds, and for the last several weeks, folks have been saying, yeah, he's going to get in the game. He's going to get in the game, and he didn't. Boy, he made the most of this one today. What a catch.
What a ball, too. I mean, this throw is an absolute strike.
Yeah, Clark was right on target.
Yeah, he dropped that one in there.
Lovely ball from the freshman quarterback. See if they can get Potts in the end zone. Again, play clock down to 4. Potts scores.
Maryland's not had an answer for containing the edge all game long, whether it's first stringers or second stringers.
This rush game for Minnesota has been unstoppable. 304 on the ground. A lot of run for Casey O'Brien as the holder. Extra point for Tarbett. 52-10. Let's take a look at today's hardest working player, brought to you by Duluth Trading Company.
Yeah, I know you see the 52 points, but it was really about the defense for Minnesota early. Whitfield with a big pick early on off of a tip, and then Durr, another tip, gets a pick 6 out of it. A lot of pressure inside. Oliver gets a sack. The defense set the tone early on, but on the other side of it, that man, Morgan on the left, had a pretty good day. 12 of 21, orchestrated the run game, a couple of touchdown passes. Not bad, huh?
Not at all. He's trying to get them to 10 wins. They are 8-0. They'd love to participate in the college football playoff, but certainly feasible to get to 10 wins for the first time since 03, when Assad Abdul Khalik was the quarterback and they were playing in the Metrodome. It's been a long time, and look, they have very much the inside track in the Big Ten West to get to the Big Ten title game. They have Iowa and Wisconsin still remaining on the schedule, but if they go Splitsville with those, they have a very strong chance of still getting to the Big Ten title game, even if they lost to Penn State in 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've got a 2-game lead. Now they've got 3 really tough ones on the horizon with Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin.
You guys ignore Northwestern, the alma mater of our producer, Mandy Cohen.
I did not.
And that one will come back to haunt you.
As I said, they've got 3 real tough ones on the horizon.
You're going to have Jim Phillips knocking on my door because you said that. The thing about Northwestern is they just haven't scored consistently this year, and that's the best chance for Minnesota to get a win remaining. Those are small percentage chances down the stretch there. But there's a lot of belief in these Gophers right now, and a lot of energy in this stadium and on that sideline. We've seen it all day.
Yeah, look, this is Q. I want you to weigh in on this. This is a sound team that we've seen a couple times. We've watched a ton of tape on them. They don't tend to beat themselves.
You think about today with 2 penalties. How many missed assignments have we seen? How many missed gaps against a pretty good Maryland run game that can crease you? They are so fundamentally sound, so disciplined, and well coached. Say what you want about PJ Fleck. Man, his teams play a clean brand of football.
It took a perfect ball on a wheel route to score the only touchdown for Maryland in the game.
They will be at a talent disadvantage when they play Penn State. The size Penn State will be. Nobody ever said any of these things were supposed to be easy.
Right.
It's going to be a hard-fought game for them to take down State. Got them home.
They get better each time you plug the tape in. And not everybody can say that. And they're very healthy for this stage of the season in terms of the national picture.
You imagine that a linebacker who did not play today. And then you kind of look down the sheet and you say 3 of the 4 are a possible loss. But we saw Winfield just moments ago. They've got a legacy guy at corner in Winfield.
Yep.
They've got Barber at linebacker. 2 guys who very much know what it's like to play in big games and be around big games. And frankly, a team that found its footing last year and used that momentum, if you believe in that sort of thing, to get to this season.
Yeah, not overly complicated in what they do, so their players are confident when they go on the field. They know what they're supposed to do.
PJ doesn't believe in momentum. He told us that yesterday. He said that's pixie dust. It's all about preparation. He called this week, what, Maryland Championship Week? Just trying to go 1-0, the cliche, but they live it, and they believe it.
Look, I think he was the right guy for this job. You know, so much had gone on here. They needed a head coach to come in who, you know, was positive and could connect with the players, and he is all of that.
I like their balance on offense. The big old line with the 2 great receivers on the outside. The weather's going to change in this conference in November.
Yep.
And I think they can handle that.
And you'd think the weather, if it gets nasty, would favor them with that running game. I mean, we see Jellin and Potts and, you know, Kramer playing quarterback here. They've cycled some guys in and on the verge of 8-0.
Sure. Now, let's just keep in mind to balance that out. Iowa is kind of built that way.
True.
So it'll be a slugfest. Wisconsin is built that way. Another slugfest. And Penn State is the most talented of those 3 teams. And there will be a little talent gap, you know, between Minnesota and Penn State. Doesn't mean they can't beat them. It's not who's the most talented team or who's the best team. It's who plays best for 3 hours or 3.5 hours.
They did today in a big way. Tanner Morgan in Minnesota came into the afternoon with the 4th longest win streak in the nation. They run it to 10 overall, dating back to last year, and 8-0 for the first time since 1941 in the national championship, and their only Heisman Trophy and Bruce Smith. Clock on the way to 0 as we go downstairs to Quinn.
Coach, congratulations. What was most impressive about your defense?
Great to see you. Appreciate it. Just they were swarming around the ball. We talked about family room defense. Get everybody to the family room, right? Not separate rooms. Get everybody in that house. Get everybody in that family room. Swarm to the ball. And our playmakers made plays. We challenged them.